Oh, all right, there we go. All right, so there are a couple. Honestly, one of them I forgot, but I know one of them was Eli Lilly, so we can look at that one. All right. So Eli Lilly, and if we go to what would this be? Let me get out of Trinity real quick. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I got access recently. What else is older one? I think he came out with some new scripts, so I need to buy into that one. All right. So Eli Lilly, oh shoot. Wait, when I switch out of Trinity. All right, there we go. So even if we look at Eli Lilly at close on Monday, there's a few things we can start to notice. So let me get this pen out. Sorry, one second, y'all. All right. So first thing we notice is we're seeing so actually these maps I love trading these. And what these are, I guess like the way I think of them is they're kind of like two node maps, right? Where we basically just have a very large range. So, obviously on Eli Lilly, we have like a 100-point range and we just have super strong floor, super strong ceiling, right? So these oftentimes are very simple because if we're inside the range, not if we're external, if we're internal to the range, this is a trade where you basically can just set an alert at each end, right? So what I'll do is I'll just go in trading view, set an alert on each side, and then go ahead and just wait, right? So you just see what side will tap. And again, you can give it a little bit of buffer. So if you want to sort of be prepared where if you want to have some time to like prepare brokerage and all that, whatever, you can go ahead and like set the alert at 9:02, 9:05, like give it a little bit of cushion. I usually just set it at the node because what I found is anytime I set it early, I would enter early and then just end up with some drawdown that I didn't feel like having. So that's why I ended up, I switched to setting it at the node itself. But we had here is very clear, Gex has showing ceiling and floor. If you look at the Vex, you're actually getting a pretty good correlation, right? Where you're seeing the Vex has a lot of volume at the same nodes. So you're getting this sort of confluence across the Gex and Vex. And this is something you can actually only see ahead of time, which I'll show as we replay the next day, actually. So what happens with Vex, right, is as Vex pushes to this 900 level, this volume won't actually show there when we're actually tapping it, right? So a lot of times when you're looking for this like Vex confluence, you actually need to check it when we're not near the node. So I'll show that yeah, let me flip to the next day and then I'll show that because obviously this was something you see pre-market, either pre-market Tuesday or Monday night if that's when you're charting. So then obviously what we see Tuesday, right, is we start dipping pretty hard, right? So what is oh there we go. All right, so we start dipping pretty hard and actually let me swap over to the Vex. What is going on? Why does this banner wait, what is the difference? Why is this flipping up? Interesting. Wait, give me a second, y'all. I'm gonna screenshot this and send this to the developer. It's like a bug report. I've never seen that before. All right. Sorry about that. But anyways, once we're on the Vex, right, what we see is as price starts moving, you start pushing towards it, you'll see that the node basically fades out, right? So that's just something like that's the way the Vex behaves. So a lot of times the confluence on the floors and ceilings for the Vex, you actually don't see them when we're there. So that's just something I want to note, right? So when you look at the Vex and we're actually at a strong level, you won't notice in that moment, right? It's something that you kind of have to track beforehand. So it can make it a little bit trickier to track some of this stuff on the Vex. But a lot of times what the Vex is showing you is like directionally, right, where we have a lot of volume, right? But anyway, so a lot of times the Gex is, very clearly going to show that floor. And then, yeah, I mean, as you can see on the chart, right, like Tuesday, that's where we bottomed. We baked like maybe $1 under. Like this is one of the tightest, especially for Lilly, where a ticker of this price a lot of times will overshoot pretty steep actually, like by $5, $10. So for it to bounce off like that precisely, I was pretty surprised honestly. And we got a $30 push even if you're just playing this as a zero DTE, and you want to exit same day, due to like all the uncertainty overnight. But then obviously with the the pump we got due to news yesterday, then obviously this this ran basically up to 960. And if you'll notice this 1000, and then another argument here, right, is this 900 is also a pretty strong psychological level, right? And if you look in the past, like for your chart thesis, right, it was a bit lower, I would say. Like this support resistance flip was actually down to like 896. But we're tapping in very close to that, right, before we get this huge pop. So Eli Lilly, pretty strong play here, right? And then I'm trying to remember. The other one was maybe no, it wasn't CoreWeave. I think it was OKLO. So OKLO, we had a similar situation. Yeah, it was OKLO. Yeah, these are the two I talked with. I forgot who I talked about these with, but they were really pretty good examples, so I wanted to highlight them. Honestly, I might make some recaps on these. So OKLO shows a little bit of a different principle. So it does show that we have a lot of GEX-BEX correlation. So if you're looking at this 45 and 50 level, right, we have, oh shoot. Oh my goodness, I left the replay mode. Sorry, give me a second, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. So yeah, if you're looking at GEX-VEX, right, you're seeing that we have 15, 45 shown on both. What you'll also notice is that this is a level that's held very consistently, not just this week, but over several weeks. So a lot of times these actually are very strong plays where we have the GEX and the VEX showing very strong positioning. Like this is not only a floor this week, but also for the next couple weeks, right? A lot of times these are extremely strong plays when you see something like this. So that's often something that I think John actually is really big on these, right? When you have these sustained levels. And I think if you look at some of his case studies, this is something that's present in a lot of his swing trades. So yeah, again, this is similar to before, right? Of like we have our range, pretty defined range. So just, we're gonna go set alerts on both sides and see what happens, right? So you'll see actually on Monday, we rejected off of 50, basically, right? So if you're looking at this Monday night, we had gapped down a little bit. We're sitting around 47. We drop down and we tap 45 to the dot basically and then bounce, right? Also, we're double bottoming if you're looking back a week, right? So we're taking out this low and then actually we didn't sweep it, but we're hitting very close to it. And then we got a very strong bounce off of that, right? So again, this is helped by news, but this reaction of 45, like this is still a $2 reaction within two candles, right? Like 2 1 hour 2 hours and you're already getting this push of $2. This is like an incredibly quick reaction, right? And then even with the retrace and further pump, obviously, yeah, if you hold runners due to news, like this ended up pumping further. But even this initial move here of $2 is enough to make pretty nice profits there, right? Okay, yeah. So again, these are actually I probably won't make a recap. I might just splice this video and just throw these into a separate one. All right. So in that case, yeah, now we can see if there's any questions. Type shit. Yeah. Yeah, GH. Wait, typically you can't send pictures in Zoom? Interesting. All right, so typical if it's okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna open your image here so then people can still see what we're talking about. Give me a second. Okay, so your question is in a situation where there isn't a ceiling present, it's best to hold until the next node of possible resistance. Yes. There's a couple comments. So yes, but I would not get greedy with it, right? Like I would not hold a full position because remember, like a lot of times what we're playing is the reaction off whatever floor or ceiling, right? So we're not always guaranteed that it's just going to move from node to node, right? Sometimes it will, but sometimes moves will bounce and sort of peter out, right? So there was a case, this might have been Oracle, right? So this was maybe 2 months ago, where Oracle was showing, was it Oracle? No, it was A-Firm. So A-Firm was showing, okay, we have a strong floor at 70, we have a strong ceiling at 80, right? And a ton of people played that bounce off 70 or chased it as well. Like, it already bounced like $1, I think, to 71. And they chased it, right? Saying, okay, look, like we just bounced off this floor. We have this huge 80 node. That's what I'm gunning for, right? I think price is going to deliver, be drawn all the way up there. But always remember that that initial reaction is usually what we can guarantee, but a full follow through is very hard, right? Sometimes it will happen, but a lot of times you need a few other things to go in your favor, right? Like one, market direction has to be favoring it. So like what happened with A-Firm is like overall market is just selling off. So it's gonna be very hard for for that ticker to keep pushing, right? And make such a large push, right? From 70 to, a $10 push on a firm is a large percentage of the ticker value itself, right? So a lot of times I tell people, uh, you should be trimming just off the initial reaction, right? And if you're holding runners, sure, with the runners, you can say, okay, now I'm going to wait for this next level of resistance, right? But I would not do that with the full position. That's it's pretty risky, right? And pretty greedy, honestly. So now, regarding to indexes, I don't actually know if the screenshot you sent me was indexes. I'm going to assume it is. Um, you have to also consider that the next possible node of resistance above is does not always have to come from the same map you took the trade on, right? So if you take an SPX floor, you think it's going to bounce, it's possible that the next node of resistance is from SPY or QQQ, right? So especially when you're in this chart mode, which is new, so I think people are going to get accustomed to it. But at least from what I know, you're not able to look at SPX, SPY, and QQQ all side by side because SPX isn't released yet. So you're going to need to be making sure you're still looking at the actual SPX heat map, right? Like your just standard table format, and making sure that you're looking at that and saying, okay, look, we just got a reaction, but it's possible that this SPX ceiling here is going to stop this upside move, right? So you need to be assessing across the board what are some nodes that can get in your way, right? And then the last thing I'll say is, and this is more of like just like a nitpick, is um, don't always hold for the node itself, right? So if you have a node, I don't know, 600, just to make up a number, you're not actually holding until we tap 600 on the dot, right? Make sure you're probably be selling most of it as we approach it, right? So for the same reason that nodes can bounce early, um, for SPY QQQ, we're usually giving like a 50-cent buffer and SPX like a 5-point buffer. Because of that, a lot of times you actually want to trim as we get to within that buffer zone, right? Because it's possible that we reject early. So yeah, hopefully that. Oh, Bruce, I'm just answering the question based on the right of the screen. Yeah, I'm not talking about the chart, but hopefully that makes sense. Typical of like how I'm approaching that. Okay. Okay, great. Jitin, is there a way to get the symbols with nice setups? What does that mean? Like, if we're able to pull the best heat maps for individual tickers? I mean, no, I mean, right now, like, you're gonna have to go pull that yourself, right? Like, you have to scan through. So, like, Jewel will post some setups sometimes. I used to, but I haven't been lately. I've been busier at night with other stuff. Um, but yeah, you're gonna have to hunt through a bit to find those. Now, what I'd recommend is like don't hunt through all 300 tickers, right? That's just not feasible. So put down a short list of like 30 to 50 tickers that you know how to trade, you know how they move, you've traded them before, and just look out of those your subset and see what are the best maps that you identify each night or a couple times a week. And that's how I'd approach that. But at least right now, there's no like I guess like there's no scanner that will just automatically spit you out all the top setups, if that makes sense. Thought you knew how Tesla moved until Tesla. I don't know. I haven't looked at Tesla in a while. I don't like trading Tesla, so I'll be honest, I never look at it. Till Monday. I mean, yeah, let's take a look. Why not? Bruh. Sorry, I can't type. So what was Monday? The 6th? Let's see. All right, so it looks like pre-market. We had a couple of floors. Actually, it was pretty spread out, but as soon as market opened, we just got a huge amount of volume concentrated on 367, and that just held completely as our ceiling of the day is what it looks like, right? So I don't know what trade you took. So actually, Tesla's a really good example, right? Of like, this is a really good example of one, like the ceiling being formed. Like we just see it all concentrate there. So if you're waiting, unless you're trading like right at the open, you're waiting a few minutes, you're gonna see all that volume concentrate at 367. Price was, yeah, price high a day was literally 22 cents above that. And then what you see on Tesla is you just consistently see volume rolling lower and lower and lower, right? So actually, yeah, I might put a little like time lapse of this together because that's a pretty good example. Maybe we can add to the docs. And then what we see actually. So first we push down to this 360 node that flares up and gets a lot of volume. But then we actually get this rug pull to set up at 360 and 357, right? So let me go maybe down to the 15 minute. Yeah. So like we get a slight ever so slight bounce a bit lower actually here, right? So it's 357. Looks like we break under this 360, which would be around here. So we break under, and at this point, we're actually approaching. So what's happening here, right, is we're approaching the rug pull from the inverse side, right? Because usually the rug pull we want to approach from the negative side from below and play the rejection. What was happening here is prices coming from above. So a lot of times for continuation here, what you're looking for here is does this 360 level hold, or do we break below, retest, and then get that rug pull to happen, right? So once we see price flush down, so this is flushing down to like what, yeah, 358. So we're breaking like pretty cleanly under. What you'd be looking for there is like, okay, can we retest this positive node of the rug pull, and then we get that full rug pull coming through, right? And that's basically what happens, right? Like we retest back up to 360. So at this point, I, I don't know what trade you took. No way, glitch is starting to zoom. This guy. No, I don't. This brother. Oh no, that's the recording. Okay, okay. Yeah, I was about to crash out. Um, yeah. So anyways, sorry about that. Yeah, y'all scaring me. Who's asking this question? iPhone. Okay, well, I don't know who iPhone is, but anyways, point here is that I don't know what trade you took. That would also help me look. That will also help me understand what the question is. But if at some point you're thinking, okay, you might gravitate back towards this 365, here's a good example. Like 360 is being a pretty strong gatekeeper, right? Where we've broken below. Now this level, if we don't break back above 360, this can hold a ceiling, right? And flush us further down. So then what ended up, and another thing I'll mention, I know there's a lot of things, but actually this Tesla example shows a lot of the principles that we look for, right? Another thing that happened is this rug pull is not actually a super strong one because we have this 355 node, right? So even if we flush through, the downside is very limited, right? We have this node immediately that can potentially bounce us back up. Um, but what we see happen is by the time, or as we tap 360 around here, right? So this would have been like 1030. We see that this node at 355 actually completely fades out. So now what we have is if this rug pull happens, we actually have a good amount of space to push downwards, right? And then so we get this super strong flush. Obviously, like market overall was flushing, so like you get good alignment with this setup and what the market overall is doing. Another thing, yeah, actually, this Tesla example is really good. Now, the more I look at this, okay, so then another thing we're seeing here on Tesla, like say you miss this whole flush, right? So we get this whole flush to occur. Another thing we see is this 350 level is super strongly defended, right? Hmm. So same principle I just went over on OKLO. So we have a ton of volume down here at 350, and that's actually where we end up getting a bit of a reaction late day, right? Where we hunt a bit below. So we actually hunt like a full node below, but we did get a bit of a bounce there. Now, I don't know if some news came out or maybe this is just the overall market, but like, yeah, if you hold this swing into next day, you're pretty cooked on Tesla. But if you're scalping just some late day, like definitely this is something that could have, could have been like the next call argument, right? So if we skip deeper into the day, yeah, basically that those levels hold, right? Like that 350 volume holds, and then we get a decent bounce there, right? Nothing crazy, but we do get and actually this was Monday. If you're playing 0DTE Tesla contracts, you're probably catching a rip there. This guy, Pocket. So yeah, that'd be, oh, check next day. Okay. Yeah, I'll check Tuesday. Let's see. I mean, so at this point, fairly messy map, right? Where we have this negative cluster, where we also have this upside 360 node, and then we seem to have a bit of volume down here, like 340-ish. Even a little bit down here at 330, but not very clear, I'll be honest, on this one. Um, so probably what happened is as we push towards 340, yeah, as we push towards 340, right? So a bit of this volume up here at 360 started stepping in towards that 340 node. And I think that's where we ended up bottoming out, right? Um, yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, so I'll say like t Tuesday was definitely not as clean. Like I'll say this is a lot muckier. But in a case like this where you're looking and you're saying, okay, this is not a very clean map, then that's probably also just a time to ignore, right? I had a gold alert for what? I don't trade gold. Interesting. 370 lit up in pre-market. I mean, yeah, so it's definitely there, right? But whenever you see nodes lit up, you need to be thinking is, okay, if I have a slightly bullish bias, right? One is what can get in the way. So like, yes, 370 is lit up, but 360 is also lit up, right? So it's potentially push up and then reject 360. So like that max upside is not actually what you think it is, right? Like I would always take the worst case scenario, assume that's going to happen, and then if we end up blowing through and go to 370, all the better. But you should not be assuming that we're going to blow through a level, right? And then two, even if you have upside nodes, whether it's 360 or 370, like even if 360 wasn't there, you still need to be hunting for what is like the floor you're going to play off of, right? So that alone, where you start saying, okay, like where's the nearest floor that I'm going to play off of, as well with the chart thesis, right? Um, and in that time that you're sort of looking for that, what you should have already noticed is, okay, we're losing a ton of volume up here at 370, it's rolling lower and lower and lower, right? And that should have, I mean, at least to me, that would probably put me off of it. So hopefully, I don't know who iPhone is, but hopefully that's more clear or that helps. Okay. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Okay, Jiffin, is there a specific time the heat maps need to be checked? I mean, yeah, this is reshuffling constantly, right? So it depends on your trade, right? Like Jiffin, if you're trading 0 day indexes or 0 day max seven or whatever it may be, I would be checking all the time, basically. Like I would be checking, I would just be watching as you're in the trades, right? Because a lot of these moves that are happening on the indexes, like they're done within 10 minutes, right? Some moves even have like a few minutes, right? If like you get pretty good timing, sometimes you're in and out within 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes max, right? Obviously, some of them you do hold a bit longer, like full half hour, an hour, etc. Um, but a lot of times, yeah, you need to be seeing, okay, are the levels that I'm counting on to hold still present? Are we getting like a rollover in volume, etc.? So like a lot of that stuff you need to be always keeping into account. Now, if you're looking at more individual like swings or even index swings where this is a multi-day position, 1 week, 2 weeks, in those cases, you probably don't need to check as often. Like back when I used to only swing, I would probably check like I'll sort of check in batches, like 3 or 4 times a day. So I'd usually check once in the morning, once around lunchtime, and then just once in the afternoon. So for those, you don't have to do as much revising, but yeah, so it really just depends on the length of your trade. Um, Hopefully that helps. Was this Jithin? But yeah, Jithin, especially with like all the recent news, like with all the geopolitical stuff going on, there's been some pretty crazy reshufflings that I've noticed, right? So definitely I would be keeping an eye on that. Um, GW, am I trading just off Atlas? So no, I haven't traded a single time off Atlas. I've opened it just to get feedback on like some of the website stuff. And honestly, I need to probably after this call, I'm gonna spend some time doing that, just giving like UI feedback. But no, I have not traded exclusively on Atlas. I don't know if I will until SPX is added. Um, I'll probably test it out tomorrow, but I might stay off of it honestly until SPX is included. Because to me that's a pretty big gap. So like what I might do actually is like have Atlas up and then have like just a normal Trinity up on the side. Um, but I'll probably use a combo if that helps GW. Because also like Atlas, depending how you have the settings rigged, well, I guess I think it does allow you. So like I think I'd probably rig it so it shows like a lot of nodes actually. Um, but I think like some of the exact increases and decreases in node volume, yes, the bubbles are accounting for that slightly, but it's going to be like if you want the precise values, you got to be watching the heat maps, right? So I'll probably still use the heat maps like even very long term, right? Even if I am using Atlas, I'll still use it side by side. So it'll probably be similar to what I do now. If I have the chart right next to the heat map, it's just that I'll have Atlas. So I'll just have it look at the same data just in two different ways, right? Oh, you can have multiple charts. Okay. Yeah. So I'd have the multiple charts on Atlas, and then I'd just be looking at. I'd have to check, but I might still have the heat maps up on the side. I'll be honest. All right, Bruce. I'm looking at Tesla. I mean, no, Bruce. I mean, I got the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth right here. I only looked at the sixth and the seventh when I was doing the replay. Because whoever asked the question was looking at the beginning of the week. I didn't even check what it said today. So I don't know if that's your question, Bruce, but multiple charts on Atlas. 10 looks best for scalpers. 5 is more for yeah, I'd have to check typical. I don't know. I'd have to see how I feel about it. I might throw on all like whatever the max. I think the max is 20. I might throw 20 on. But I usually like seeing I prefer to have too much data usually than too little. So and that's why I like the heat maps, right? You're able to see every single node. Even if it doesn't matter, I can at least decide for myself if it matters or not, right? So that's always a preference of mine, but like definitely for someone new, it's probably gonna be a lot simpler to just pull up Atlas, turn it down to 5 or 10, and then you save a ton of brain processing power, right? Because you're not having to distinguish like what matters, what doesn't, etc. Right? One screen heat map, one screen Atlas. Yeah, that's what I think I'll do. Again, I haven't done it yet, but that'll probably be my system. Oh no, meta levels. Yeah, let me. Give me a second here. So Tesla was weirdly weak today, actually. I find that interesting. Let me get out of replay mode. All right, Meta. This is why I hate trading Meta. Okay, so first of all, like this Meta heat map sucks. Um, I guess you're looking at 625. 625, 630 is a potential rejection spot. Like that would be, oh, that's actually where we rejected today. So you'd probably be saying, okay, we can get the 625 volume, 627 node. If both of these hold, then we can get is just a bit of a double top up here, which actually lines up like this is a really strong level actually, right? Like we're looking at a level that this held like 4 times in the past, got a strong rejection off of it, even a couple rejections further back. So I like the level, honestly. I don't know what this level is for. Let me delete that. Actually, let me delete a bunch of this. These are old levels. My chart's confusing. All right. So yeah, this is the most recent, like very recent clear support resistance level. So you saw that's where we went, tapped, rejected, and then so probably you can look for a double top there. But that's about it. I really wouldn't be thinking much else on meta. Let me think here. I guess yeah, OPEX is pretty bullish, but I'd be looking for a stronger floor. I guess if we do like if we do dip pretty hard back towards this 597, maybe even 590, you'd be looking either for this support resistance flip. Actually, this is really clean off 590, or you'd be looking at this 597. I don't really like as a level. So that's all I'd really be looking at is maybe 590 and then up here at 625 on meta. But I don't trade meta much. I don't like it. Actually, I don't trade like the Mag 7s almost at all. Um, but yeah, double top up here looks pretty good. Like we've only tested that level once, and then just make sure we keep this volume there on Gex and that we don't see like any further stacking of maybe 650 or any higher. and then that should be a pretty good rejection you can play going into Friday. Or maybe wait and see if it taps. It waits until Friday to tap and then play puts. But yeah, it'd probably be my read there. You'd have to see how the map looks once time comes around. Okay, who was that? No, Onel, hopefully that helps. Let me see here. All right, any other questions? First week in the channel. Okay, welcome. You joined partly due to Heatseeker. Oh shoot, like you just started. Yeah, so take a look at within the Asgard, there should be a new to Skylit channel in the Skylit HQ towards the top. I would probably go there, read through some of those resources. I actually need to update it to include the Skylit Academy link. I'll do that right after this call, actually. Like that's pretty important. Um, but I would start with Glitch's YouTube. So I would go to the couple video YouTubes I listed in there. I would go watch those, and then you can also go through Skylit Academy, and then also just add me as a friend on Discord. Then DM me. I'll help point you to any resources you need. But that's probably where I'd start. Just keep it simple and go through some of the trainings, and then once you go through those and can start to read the maps a bit better, then you can actually start live testing and back testing, etc. Yeah, yeah, no problem. No problem, Erwan. Erwan, maybe. All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. When the next live? Uh, if I get up on time tomorrow in the morning. Um, yeah, if I don't, then I'll run one tomorrow in the afternoon. Yeah, I'll try. Usually, yeah, I'll work. I'm working on it. Yeah. Any other questions? I don't know. Too many people in here, honestly. So if there's not any other questions, I may just cut this early. Um, if there's other questions, I can stick around a little longer. Yeah, appreciate the questions, GW. Who's OH? OH? Oh, yeah, actually, I guess for whoever's left, yeah, I guess we can take a look at some of the charting stuff. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it too deep. Nexus, I haven't even opened Nexus, I'll be honest. What's all this? Oh, they put in a disclaimer. QQQ. Wait, hold up. Let me move this little. There's some like zoom thing that's super annoying. Oh my. All right. Glitch hasn't even fixed my request. What the heck? He's fixing everyone else's stuff. All right. Yeah, so firstly, actually, if any of you use light mode, you're not gonna see the ticker name in the top left, so you'll have to actually switch to dark mode if that's something that you're looking for. Mustang man. I don't know who you are. What's up, bro? QQQ. All right, so how does this work? So we got current plus next and what is this telling us? Rolling baskets of future projection dates, dropped expired contracts, and pull the next citation. Okay, interesting. So it's not just today. And then the one I've been playing around with is the Gex plus Vex. Honestly, like I find that one most interesting. Just 'cause a lot of the Gex Vex data you already see on Trinity. Gex plus Vex, like this is completely new, right? So I think this is gonna be pretty valuable. And then I guess there's like the projection thing. Yeah, I don't actually. I need to look into like what this projection thing is showing. 3 days, because I know this one changes based on time frame, I believe. But yeah, so yeah, QQQ. All right, if we're charting levels, I'm just gonna do that here. I'm not actually gonna go do that on Skylit. Holy crap, my QQQ. All right, 1 second. All right, so QQQ, we flip up to, we're already on the 1 hour. Let me see here. This is wonderful. Okay, with the pump we just had, we're now entering the same massive consolidation block we had in the past, which is actually really annoying. Like it took us forever to break out of this, and then we retested and got a sharp drop after. We're now back inside it. So, uh, I guess you can call it all the way up to here. So again, we don't know if this zone is then going to come take effect again. Right? It's hard to tell to see if we're going to chop through this area or not. But in the past, this was some pretty heavy resistance up here at the top, right? We had a couple double tops, or even there's actually a level a little bit lower down here that we rejected a few times in the past. So yeah, even if we do keep getting some bullish news, I don't know. I'd be surprised if we just clean blow through this level, right? And that's what today we also got a bit of bit of resistance on this level here, right? Uh, oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted, yeah, like right here where we had this previous support flip to resistance, like this was resistance like 5 times, right? And then we later came and tapped it again and rejected as well. So, and then on the downside, you'd probably be looking for that, like the bottom edge of this box, right? So this support resistance. Let me just delete the box actually. It's probably more confusing than anything. Where we had, one, two, three, we had like 4 taps to the upside and even 5 if you count this one, even though the stop one was pretty steep on that one. Then once we broke below, we held it twice as a ceiling, right? Actually, even 3 times if you count this tap right here. So if we do get some kind of correction, right? Not even for just tomorrow, right? But just in the coming weeks, then I'd probably be looking for this 590-ish to see if we retest there and hold that for further upside. All right. Dave, about the projections. Yeah, so actually I don't think I tested the projections at all. So it looks like what we're looking at here is the likelihood of price tapping these levels. Now, 573 being that large is extremely weird to me. That may be because it's pretty VEX based. Yeah, so it looks like yeah, VEX is just showing huge volume down to 573. I wonder if that's Friday or tomorrow. Um, with the gap up, I probably would not be looking at that, honestly. But even if that node is there, and even 580 has strong volume, it still shows that we have a lot of downside pull. Now, this is just QQQ, right? So if I look at, oh, actually, let me test this multi-mode. See I guess if we pull up the projection for SPY SPX, we could see a completely different pattern, right? Oh, this is taking some time to load. All right, give me a second. Oh my goodness. I have to click what? Yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing on this. Oh, I see. All right, my bad. All right, so it seems like SPY showing a similar thing. So this doesn't surprise me due to the gap up that we saw. Doesn't surprise me that a lot of positioning is still stacked pretty low. So this is something you'd probably want to be keep a close eye on, right, over the next few days and see, okay, are we seeing a lot of this volume, especially on QQQ, right, where we have a ton of downside volume? Are we seeing a lot of that roll higher to 580 and probably, I don't know, maybe 590, even 595? Like we should see a lot of this volume roll higher if we're expecting price to hold, right, this pump or at least like retest and not sort of reverse the entire thing back down, right? Top left. Yeah, my bad, Dylan. I'm slow with this stuff. Yeah, so that's probably all I'd be looking at for QQQ and Spy. Like I'll say, I mean myself, like I'll need to spend a bit more time with this projection and see like how I'm interpreting it. But it looks like Spy, in terms of like singular node, Spy actually has some pretty good upside up here at the 685. But I'd have to check. I don't know what this percentage is telling us. Is it relative to like every node? Is it relative to just what the node's shown? I would hope it's relative to every node. I would assume so actually, because these do not add up to 100. Yeah, so it's probably relative to every node. But that's probably what I'd be looking at and saying, okay, like right now, or yeah, Spy we're seeing a bit of downside, QQQ we're seeing some sorry, Spy we're seeing upside, QQQ we're seeing some downside. One, I'd have to check what SPX is saying, which we're not able to look at here on the chart mode yet. But then two, I'd want to see can we're truly going to get further upside or downside. You'd want to see the index that's going against you sort of come into line, come in line, if that makes sense. Yeah, no problem, Dave. Again, I'm also pretty fresh to it, so I mean, like, there's probably going to be a lot of things I learn about it as time goes on. So that's just my first pass at, I guess, how I'd be looking at it and using it. All right. Let me see. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I might cut it here, honestly, in almost an hour, but I might cut it here and then go focus on a few other videos. I wanted to record a video on velocity feature and how I use it, and then I might record a few videos on maybe on swing trades and using X and Vex. But yeah, anyways, yeah, thanks all for joining for any questions, and then I'll try to maybe host an extra one of these each week, just with all the new stuff coming out. I'll figure out a schedule and send it so y'all know a bit more ahead of time. I know this one was kind of impromptu, but uh, probably what I'll do is I've been having office hours for Owls and Bakery. I'll probably just make all of those global. So I may just send the same link out to Asgard, Owls, and Bakery and just have everyone join with questions. Since there's no sense in splitting them up. And it'll also help just to have more questions overall, right? Just so people can listen in on other people's questions. So, all right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll cut this here. Yeah, I hope everyone has a good night. And yeah, 2 days left in the week. So again, stay smart as you go through the rest of the week. All right, everyone. Thanks for everyone who joined and asked any questions, and hope y'all have a good rest of the week.